Tribe of Noise Music. 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 Tribe of Noise Music.
Welcome to our July Tech Talk with Bram. We're going to give people just a couple of minutes to load in here. But as you do, if you have any questions for Bram, feel free to add them to the chat or to the Q&A, and we will make sure we get to those. We are also live streaming this on YouTube. So if you have questions, we are going to do our best to grab all of the YouTube questions and get to those as well. But we do have the community feedback and events channel in Discord that we monitor for questions during these events as well. That being said, Bram, thank you for your time today. We hear you've been working on some really interesting stuff, and we've seen some examples come out that have been vibe coded. Of
Yeah,
course, I'm
yeah,
talking about gaming.
yeah. Actually, people really want to hear my thoughts on vibe coding, but which is not central to what I'm doing here, obviously. But I have been successful using it at Chia, so that's been great. I gather a lot of people. The reason people want feedback, want to hear about it, is a lot of people try vibe coding and it stalls out after like a few minutes, and so like seeing examples of someone doing pure vibe coding for actually real software development is kind of interesting to people. Um, so I have I can show demos here if people want to see that. That might be a thing to do. Um, but I've been vibe coding the very, very front end HTML for upcoming games. So the whole thing with Chia Gaming is it's been this massive, huge technical lift getting the back end working. And I had already designed the games, and we've been implementing the games. And now, like, nearly the last thing being done is actually writing the HTML. It actually goes to the front. The whole thing is like the last thing you do here. This is the exact opposite order of how you normally do things. Normally, everyone's like, "Oh, you should just make a prototype and then fill in the thing later." It's like, no, this product doesn't work that way. But so I have demos here which aren't actually a functioning system, but do show how the games work. Um, so let's see. I should share that one, this one. Here we go. All right. So this is, I'm getting that stuff moved out of the way on my screen here. Okay, so this is California Poker. This was vibe coded using Claude. This was just vibe coded using Claude the same way anyone could do it. This is a lot more complicated than it looks. This took some time. So one thing I'm very proud of here is check this out. It resizes properly. Okay, that was the thing, and this will
Yeah, that's great.
and this displays nicely on mobile too. It's great. Okay, so this is the game California Poker. This is going to be our reference game. This is the real rules of California Poker. This is an actual mock of it. So this is probably going to have like a visual design pass over it before we go, but this is pretty close to the real working thing. So rules of California Poker is you select 4 cards to hand over to the other player. So in this case, let's see, they have 3 jacks. I definitely need to keep my jack. Oh, I think I'm toast here. They're going to keep their 3 jacks, and oh wait, oh no, they have 2 sixes, so they have to hand me something. So I'm going to keep this jack and the 6 and the 2. Sorry, I'm going to do the obvious now. All right, here we go. Let's see if this works. So I've picked 4 cards that I'm going to hand over to the other side, and all right. Oh, and I won. There we go. Managed to win. That's the game of California Poker. I couldn't see what cards they were picking. They couldn't see what cards I was picking, and then they were swapped, and then somebody wins. Now, so a new game, and that's it. And there's going to be you're going to be playing for a certain amount of Chia every round. That's how this is going to work.
Yeah, that's really cool. And obviously, I'm sure people saw that. Hey, wait, why did the CPU give up a pair of 6s? And what kind of logic would go into this game as to what you're giving away? And I know after I've played it a few times, there are times like you just did right there where you're better off giving away a pair so you can try to get one of the other pairs.
Yeah, there are hands where one side is just cooked, where there's something which one of the 2 sides can play where they're guaranteed to win. But the vast majority of hands, the optimal play is a mixed strategy. Like if you knew exactly what the opponent was going to give you, you could win. Um, so that's kind of the point of the game. So this is meant to be a very fast and fun game. It's our reference game, but it is a real legitimate game of skill. And it fits the medium really well, in particular because, well, because you can implement it, and it has very, very few turns in it. Chia Gaming, the requirements are there's a bunch of things that are a little hard to explain about the rules around random values and what they can and can't be. But this falls within those, and it has to be turn-based games. It's not obvious that this is exactly turn-based because it's simultaneous play, but you can do that within turn-based. And it should be as few turns as possible in the whole game. So this obviously has very few turns in it, making a very fast game, which is also just fun to do. So and this very like Nash equilibrium kind of outguessing the opponent seems to be what fits the medium. Like regular poker has that, but it's not obvious when you sit down that that's the main thing, where these games a little bit more just shove it in your face. And then there's the other one that I have an okay front end mock for. We're going to roll it with 3 games. One of them, the front end mock for it is still doesn't look very pretty. This is the front end mock for Crunk, which is obviously very closely related to Whirl. I got to change these colors so it's not trademark infringing. but the this is so the game is we both players enter in a word for the opponent to guess. I'm going to say puppy. There we go. All right, and now I have to do Wordle guesses of what they might say. So let's see, it's there, general thing, and uh, let's see, cheat. No, that's not right. Um, say chant. Oh, there you go. Chant. Nope. All right, so they didn't get that word. I am.
And while you go through that, describe what the different highlights we're seeing down at the bottom are also, because we see
Oh,
both the same colors, but
so
an extra one.
that's so what's showing down there is this is showing you basically a repeat of what's up here because this is the way Wordle does it. The blue shows you what are the potential next letters for what you're typing because it's super annoying trying to play this where you're having to go like what is even a word. It's like not fun trying to brainstorm even a single word that works. So I'm going to use that now. Actually, I'm thinking, just a minute ago I was playing with this and I was thinking actually the Wordle information here is not super helpful, and the things about what letter might come next is. So I might get rid of the redundant yellow and green down here and just put the what's being shown as the blue. It's telling you what the blue indicates is potential next letters for the letters you've already indicated that are compliant uh, with the clues that you've gotten so far and in the dictionary. So met. Okay, there we go. All right, so I got +5. So I won. I won 5. So now my score. I lost something already before I got here, but my score went up and the computer score went down. This is being shown as a score because it's Claude. It doesn't like gambling or something. I actually don't know if it would get mad at me for doing gambling, but sometimes it acts weird about certain things. So I told it it's a score, not a balance. But you'll be able to play for Chia in the real thing. So that's um, uh, so that's the game. And if you kind of know like what first word the opponent does all the time, you can you pick words that are uh, wait, okay, there we go. You can pick words that the opponent's going to have a hard time finding. So there's kind of a trade-off here. Like there are words that are good first words, but if you lean too heavily on those, you're never going to get the 100 you get for getting it on the first or second guess. Um,
Mhm.
and then it goes 100, 100, 25, 1, and then nothing if you don't get it in 5. That's the C
Okay.
A G A G.
Yeah, this is all really neat, and thank you for showing this one and the other game. As you mentioned, these are things that you can play them rather quickly. It's limited number of turns, and that was one of the design decisions to overcome one of the challenges on the blockchain. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so when you're playing when you're playing this for real, you're playing over a state channel most of the time. So it's so that's real time play as long as you're in the state channel. But if there's a problem, if the opponent just disappears or is griefing you or something, then play falls back to being on chain. That's the
Ah,
other bit. And so there, it's like one transaction on chain per move. So obviously, yeah, obviously you want as few of those as possible.
yeah,
Um,
most certainly. And this reduces down to at most like 6 per person or something like that.
it is 5, I believe. The entire game is 5 turns in
Okay.
poker. Or in Kronk, it is. How does this go? In Crunk, well, this is two games happening simultaneously that aren't really related to each other. So here it's showing what the computer was doing as
Mm-hmm.
I was doing this. So these are actually two unrelated games being displayed. But um, the the number of turns is, let me see. So Alice commits to a word, and then Bob. See, how's this go? Alice commits to a word. Bob guesses. Alice gives a clue. Yeah. So it's Alice does a commit, and then four clue reveals, and then a final thing at the end. So that's five. Yeah. So a whole game. The longest game, I believe, from Crunk is five Alice guesses and four Bob guesses.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it worked in California. In it would be really weird for like the first one of those to have to be done on chain. I think that's not really even possible to have happen.
Mm,
So the most you'd have to have on chain is like 8, and the most you could have on chain for California poker is like 4. Um,
gotcha.
yeah. So these are concepts. I'm obviously still working on them.
Mhm.
Because like I said, I was just thinking I should remove the redundant yellow and green from the keyboard here for
Oh.
and then just keep the blue. Maybe change it from blue to something else, but just tell you like what next letters are possible with
Mhm.
the constraints, because that's more fun. There's with things like this, there's always a question of how much the UX can play the game for you.
Mhm.
And so if it play and so there's always like some social convention of what that is. And if the UX is doing more than that, you're cheating. But
Mhm.
if the convention is that the UX is allowed to do X amount for you, then it's not cheating. So here I think having this rule that it tells you what potential next letters are is pretty reasonable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Apparently there's
Not.
in the
Oh.
dictionary that I pasted in, there's no letter starting with an X.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. We have a couple of questions regarding state channels themselves.
Yeah.
And one of them is, can you just go into a little bit more detail as to how it's different for when the game is occurring in the state channel versus on chain?
When the game is happening in the state channel, it's happening in real time. You're not having to wait for anything.
Mhm.
So there is nobody else uses this vernacular, but I talk about there being virtual coins. So you have a state channel, and there are these virtual coins that are inside the state channel, and you and I are updating the state of these virtual coins. Um, and the idea is, and we're doing what are actually fairly normal spends and such of them as we're going forward. Um, the the idea here being that all we really care about is the end state of the whole thing, right? When we're playing a session of games, we don't need the whole history of all the games to go on chain when we're done. We just need our final balances, right? Um, so so it's netting that out. So the fundamental trick in state channels is there's going to be one coin on chain that we create at the beginning, in this case of a session, and that requires both of us to sign off on it for it to get spent. And we are sending each other information such that either of us can always unroll to the latest version of it, of the output. So these virtual coins are going to become real. And if one of us tries to take an older version of this, an outdated version, the other person can preempt them and say, no, that's wrong. Here's the real version right now, and jump ahead to that. So that's so that's happening in real time. If there's no particular reason for the person you're interacting with to force it to go on chain here, it's kind of either bad behavior or a malfunction on their part for that to happen. Um, but such things can happen, and good fences make good neighbors. So if they do just kind of disappear and stop cooperating, what you can do is update to the latest version. It just unroll to the latest version. And so, like, if I try to unroll to some version, you have the opportunity to preempt that because you have a later version that you can preempt it with. But if you're just not around and I honestly go with the latest version, then I just have to wait for this to go through on chain. And then once it does go through on chain, Um, uh, what's going to happen is these virtual there's going to be like two big change coins, right? There's going to be a change coin for you and a change coin for me of just the money that we have just had. And then there's going to be games that are in process. And those are going to become actual real coins, and they need to get spent once per move. That happens. They get spent to another coin that's the same size as the last one each time. And then eventually they have a payout that goes to us. They split at the end of the game. Uh, so that's how it that's the at a high level how the whole thing works.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. And so obviously that means you are opening the state channel to beginning and you're already pre-allocating how much you're going to bet or put into the game, right?
Yeah, you have to. It has to be fully funded at the very beginning. That's kind of the whole thing with cryptocurrencies. There's no credit going on here. Like the money goes in right up front. If you don't have the money, you can't start the session. That's the way it works.
Absolutely. And that leads to our next question here from Leafy is, will there be a minimum or maximum amount that you can bet or enter a game?
The terms of each session are entirely determined by the players. So you want to play for a thousandth of a cent, or you want to play for a millionth of a chia per hand. You are free to do that. You want to play for 1,000 chia per hand. You can do that as well. We're not stopping.
Mhm. Perfect, perfect. And I'm sure, these are reference implementations and there's going to be other entities that'll probably produce products off of these and they might have their own rules and regulations, but the chain's not
Y-
enforcing these at least.
Yeah, well, the chain is anchoring the whole thing. So as far as the rules of the game go, the opponent can't cheat. They could, try and get outside assistance as well. There are various ways of auditing that. Um, but they can't just, declare I win. It's not like playing checkers against a little kid who just puts their thing at the end and goes, "King me, I win."
That's great. Now, another question that we have is a little bit of foresight. And we've been talking over the last year or so that the development of these state channels for gaming can lead us to payment channels in the future. Do you mind first going into what is the difference between a state channel and a payment channel?
A state channel and a payment channel. Yeah, this is pretty subtle. A lot of it is a different emphasis. So they are on some level the same thing. To simplify, a state channel is just a payment channel which supports more complex virtual coins. And in Bitcoin, there are just because Bitcoin's script is very limited, there's pretty substantial limits on what these virtual coins can do. So you have just payment channels there. That is simplifying a fair amount because there's another semantic distinction where payment channels only really support amounts going through. The virtual coins can't be actual things. So having that limitation actually makes it a lot easier to set them up because it makes them easier to route, right? If there's a whole series of things which something has to go through, if you're trying to route through a series of intermediaries, um, the logic of how that all works is much simpler when you know that all that's going through is an amount, so each individual link can put through the entire amount, and there's no single magical here's the real thing that actually got created somewhere.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And do you mind giving us a little bit of insight as to how you foresee payment channels working in Chia and what it'll take to develop those?
I actually have coherent plans for payment channel network in Chia now. The emphasis is going to be very heavily on enabling real-time cross-currency swaps, like atomic swaps across currencies, and making that happen in real time. Um, there's kind of an interesting issue where of like what happened. You don't want anyone to ever like wind up sitting on an option at the end of it, right? That like if you're trying to do the swap, it's supposed to go through now or not at all. You don't want to be in a situation where someone starts it and then the other person goes, I'm just going to wait and see how the market moves before deciding whether I want to actually do this exchange here. So there's kind of this deep question about how do you avoid that. And it turns out you can have like a very lightly trusted third party who's really just there to make sure that it can't be an option at the end. And um, and if they misbehave, the worst that can happen is that counterparty gets the option. They can't like steal anybody's money or anything. And it's very obvious if that happens. So you can just start insisting on a different trusted third party if that is ever happening to you. So uh, that insight and some details about how to improve it, and also leveraging some stuff that Chia can do. Like there's some things that are a little subtle to explain, where Chia programming is just more convenient than Bitcoin programming. Allow for this kind of atomic swap network to be built pretty nicely on Chia. I mean, obviously, also just having cats makes a big difference as well. So it's kind of like you have a payment channel network that involves some state channels that involve Chia and some state channels that involve like, I don't know, wrapped USDC. And then you have to have liquidity providers in both of those, and then you can route through that whole thing. But the combination of having cats and a few, there's there's a few things where in Chia you have not valid after, and you have covenants, and using very simple versions of covenants really help a lot with making this work well. It reduces the timeout time. If you're doing things in Lightning, the timeouts really stack up across the whole route, and here you can avoid that pretty nicely.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of thought, a lot of planning, and a lot of
It,
development and testing has gone into
it's
this.
not done yet. The payment channel networks are a pain in the ass because they involves like a lot of things. There's a lot of parties that need to find each other and know how to do things. It's just really involved. So, but I have now the biggest questions about how to do it, which were really bugging me. I figured out how to do it a few weeks ago. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a somewhat connected question to payment channels from Brian is, how do you see scaling Permuto capital transactions? And he specifically asked about using offer files, or would it be something else like this?
Uh, yeah, so we really specifically want to do the payment channel network to support Permuto stuff because people are going to want to do a lot of trades there. So offer files take like a few minutes to go through, and you have to pay fees on chain, and that causes scaling problems and is bad because of the high latency, which you really don't want in financial things. So having a, a network which allows offer and acceptance of trades in real time is really good right there.
Yeah, most certainly. I know I'm excited to see a lot of that in action here.
Mm-hmm.
Now to go back to state channels specifically and to go back to gaming here,
Mm-hmm.
what other games do you see being compatible with state channels?
Um, I'm not sure. Like poker is an obvious one, right? So I the only reason I didn't show poker right now is my poker demo doesn't look very nice, and doesn't have quite the right rules. I got to mess with it some more. I'm still obviously since I'm talking about changing the coloration and crunk here, I'm still messing with these things quite a lot. Um, but um, regular poker is a good example, and these games are very poker adjacent. They kind of have the feel of poker. They're these Nash equilibrium things, like I think you're gonna do this, and you think I'm gonna think that you're gonna do that. That kind of logic, right? Um, so a lot of the point here of these reference games is to give people an idea of what can be done so people can make other games as well. Now these are intended to be good games in and of themselves, but also let people know what can be done. And I think like write a new game is likely to be a really nice like first Chia project in the future because it's a nice encapsulated thing where you don't have to learn about coin set programming or any of the craziness. You can just write a game. Like writing a game is kind of like you write a little bit of Chia Lisp that enforces the rules of the game. You write a little bit of Chia Lisp that kind of plays it, and then you write some JavaScript from the front end, and you have your game. And it's all you're learning stuff, but you're kind of avoiding the most crazy parts of the whole thing. Yeah, I think it's funny because I think in general, actually the hardest part about programming in Chia is the coin set programming aspect of all of it, which is also the part that makes everything like super reliable and auditable and interoperable. So so it's really front loading a lot of pain right there. So for people who are just trying to get started, that you want to have projects where you're doing something within a coin set programming flow that someone else has already figured out, and you're just like, working within that and not having to learn this whole completely different way of thinking about programming in order to get anything done.
Absolutely, absolutely, and be able to trust those primitives are going to be secure and
Yes, yeah.
mm,
Well, that's the thing here is the underlying engine supports general turn-based programming. So like when you're implementing a game, you're implementing turn-based gaming. So when you're implementing a game, you're writing how do the turns in this game work? And you don't need to worry about am I currently playing on chain or off chain? Like literally that is abstracted away. You don't have to worry about it. As far as you're concerned, you are playing on chain and that's the way it kind of behaves. And then there's this whole magical layer that makes it happen through a state channel and only unrolls when it needs to. But you don't need to worry about what the state is. You just write it as if it's happening on chain the whole time.
mhm, mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really exciting for sure.
Yeah.
Now we had another follow-up question in YouTube here. Slowest time, Lord. If you have additional questions regarding the state channels supporting the expected trading volume, let us know. Otherwise, another question regarding state channels or payment channels is it basically like an escrow on chain?
It, well, escrow means there's a third party. And here there's no third party. So it's kind of like the blockchain is escrowing, but that's like the ultimate trusted third party. It's like it's code.
Mhm. Absolutely. Oh, that's really exciting, and it's cool to be able to trust the math in that regard, if you will.
Yeah.
And well, I guess I didn't really have to trust it. If somebody wants to validate it, they can go
The
audit the math.
state
And
the state channel is literally a two of two coin. It's literally a coin that the two of us created that both of us have to sign off on for it to get spent.
gotcha. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And the ability to audit is just really powerful at that point.
Yeah.
Now, those are all the questions that I've seen come through about state channels, payment channels, and gaming. If somebody else does have any other questions regarding those, feel free to jump into the Zoom chat, into the YouTube chat, or even in the Discord community feedback channel. We try to pick all the questions from all those different areas, but we're going to go ahead and shift a little bit now over to the new plot format. And we have a question in YouTube from Christoph, which is when will the new plot format be released?
So just the other day, we went over a hopefully draft of the validation code for the new plot format. So there's a question of what defines the new plot format. So there's this funny thing where the consensus logic doesn't actually talk about the plot format at all. The consensus logic has code to validate proofs of space. And the plot format and plotting algorithms and harvesting and all that stuff is sort of implicit inside of there underneath the whole thing. It's a whole thing. um so that's uh so the thing that in some sense really really matters is the validation logic. So the other day I went through the exercise of Nick sent me the final validation logic, and I went through and evaluated it and gave some feedback, but it was only minor feedback. I had some straightforward improvements that could be done to it. So that is being done, and I feel really good about that. So we are very, very close now to having that out. and that's sort of the real final definition bottleneck to having a definition of the whole thing. And then once that's clear, then we can propose that as the new thing, and then at our leisure, like make a really nice implementation of it. You have to have a good enough implementation that shows that this is totally reasonable for plotting and such. But there are things where like we can definitely make it uh, so that we have code for doing plotting and farming off of it, which is missing like a few percent compression that we know we can get. So and then thankfully, it can. There are things we know we can do that thankfully that aren't on a super hard deadline to get them done. The deadline for those, and it's not even a deadline, but let's say it's a deadline, is when people actually start plotting, right? When people need to start plotting. And that's not going to be good for a good long while. So I'm feeling really good about this whole process. Actually, a thing that's on my plate right now is there's a question of what else we try and cram in there with the hard fork. So one thing I am hoping to get in is adding more data to reward chain blocks so that we can make weight proofs much smaller and easier to check. So that's I'm hoping to get that in there. It's working. We've had internal discussions about this. There's a lot of very technical details, which are kind of on my plate right now. So I gotta, I gotta work. Yeah.
No, definitely exciting stuff and lots of moving parts, but it sounds like you have a good handle on them and are even looking outside of the box to figure out, what else could be included.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely including uh, links from the consensus layer to the foliage at a long time delay. So we had none of those before, and that was kind of a mistake. So we're adding those in as part of the hard fork, and that really helps a lot with validating things that have happened, especially in the past, um,
Mhm.
in the
Absolutely.
far past.
Yep. We're not going to lose that Genesis block.
No, we're definitely not losing the Genesis block, but we want to make it so that like when people are operating as a light wallet, it's easy to check the weight proofs, and that's not a huge bottleneck on the whole thing. And we want it to be that when people are syncing from scratch, that doesn't take a really long time. And actually, we have ongoing things for that as well that we were just looking into what it takes from a resource standpoint to blue box everything. So hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll start the process of getting everything blue boxed properly. And then and that'll help very directly. And also we're working on I'm getting all our data stores ported from SQLite to RocksDB, which makes a huge improvement in what we're doing
Yeah, most certainly. Most certainly. Now,
altogether.
taking a high level look at that timing for the new plot format,
Yeah.
would you say we're still on track with what we claimed previously is to probably achieve 3.0 in the next couple of months? You'll start seeing the new plots beginning of next year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I'm like the last person you should ever talk to about dates. I don't
Mhm.
like. I have a very poor handle. One of my cognitive quirks. I have a very poor handle on quantitative values, just in general, as a thing in the abstract. It's just one of my things. So I can reason about amounts of time, but I'm always having to like remember them and re-reason out and make points of comparison and stuff. So
Mhm.
asking me about dates and amounts of time, I don't remember. I have to go check again. So,
No,
but I'm feeling very good about the process right now. So whether that's which of our past things we've said that might be exactly on track for stuff, I don't remember. So, but I'm feeling very good about the whole thing right now.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And in case anybody is curious, we have a very rough timeline right now on the doc site. So you can go to the doc site under the Chia blockchain and look at the new Proof of Space 2.0 and see a timeline on there. It's very, very rough estimates. So you'll see it's, between this half of this year and this half of this year is when we're going to be accomplishing things. And that's kind of to Bram's point that when we're working in software development, it's a lot tougher to really estimate this is the exact date it's going to be available. So
Yeah,
give
yeah,
ourselves the leeway.
yeah. Scheduling software is a little bit of a fool's errand in general. You could get about as good as you can do for software in general is you kind of get a sense of the overall scope of a project and say this scope of project tends to take about this long. Um, but um, but that can be foolish for like things like gaming, where there's just this massive technical hurdle that needs to be overcome, or even more so, like us shipping in the first place. Right? It took us 4 years to ship because we need to invent math and build this whole we literally had to invent math and build this whole thing in order to do it. So it took a while, right?
Mhm.
And actually, in that context, it's like, well, it's only been, boy, we shipped it, and then it took us like, oh my god, it took us like 2 whole months to get pooling protocol out, which people were acting like that was forever. That was really fast. That was crazy.
Mhm.
The um, uh, so in that context, right? So the compared to putting our blockchain together in the first place, these other projects are going faster than that. But still, these are things with a lot of technical weight to them that take a while and are very hard to schedule. But a lot of what I've been doing is like big de-risking on these things, like just foreseeing for projects that we really do want to do in the future, what should be the approach that we take to them, so that when the time comes to actually do them, we have a plan and all the big, scary architectural and mathematical questions are worked out already at that time. So I spent a lot of time on our next generation vaults. I believe we've talked about those before. Our next
Mhm.
generation vaults project is going to be very heavily based off of multi-sig and clawback. Now, this is different from the clawbacks that we have right now. So the clawbacks we have right now are like if I'm sending you a payment, I'm sending you this like conditional payment that you can see coming in, but has some clawback logic on it.
Mhm.
But you can see it already. This is clawback on like what I'm doing internally, or like we're doing internally. We're sending someone else a payment, right? There's this thing where we're putting it together with our own internal logic, and that can have a clawback period on it.
Ah.
So
Mhm.
that's going to be and the benefit of clawbacks is it applies to almost anything. So if you want to like send an NFT or do whatever, uh, those can all fit within this kind of clawback logic
Mhm.
concept.
Mhm.
So it's extremely general and future proof that way. So that's going to be all generalized multi-sig with clawbacks.
Ah.
It is going to be that, and I've spent a lot of time on that, and it's only recently gotten this like product focus, so that is the main thing that it's doing. um uh but that's going to be probably lower priority than our payment channel network in
Mhm.
our medium term.
Yeah,
So
absolutely
I would
understandable.
really want to work on better custody solutions, because I view that as job one. I really wish the entire world were screaming for better custody solutions, because that's what they should be
Mhm.
doing, but they're not. So
Yep, not the case. Now, speaking of better custody solutions and Vault specifically, you
yeah.
went into great detail about the future of Vault and what Vault V2 might look like. Do you mind taking a little time and touching on the cloud wallet iteration of Vault and what we have currently available for users to test?
Um, right. So I'm not personally working on Cloud Wallet very much. I'm
Mhm.
working on more future projects, but that does have some amount of multi-sig and clawback in it. But I can't
Mhm.
speak to what that is because I'm not working on it, and I don't want to say anything that's even technically wrong on that.
No,
But
absolutely. No, I appreciate it. And if anybody is curious about testing out vaults in the cloud wallet, you can go to vault.chia.net in order to set up your vault today. Um, the nice thing, as Bram mentioned, the back end does support multi-sig. So instead of having a single key, you actually end up with two keys. You have a custody key, which signs all of your transactions, and you also have a recovery key. so that if you lose that custody key, you have the ability to go in and rekey it out and set up
Yeah.
a new key for yourself.
Because it's still all based off of singletons, in the future, when we come up with our next generation vaults, it will be possible to upgrade your extant vaults that you have today to the new ones. Uh, so a lot of functionality there.
Yeah, very impressive stuff for sure. Um, let's see here. Now, the other thing that we developed when looking at vaults is the Chia Signer. And the Chia Signer is currently an iOS app, but can you describe what it means to have a secure enclave-based signer as opposed to a BLS key?
Oh, those are kind of orthogonal concepts. So BLS is a signing algorithm. Secure enclave means that there's a signer like on your phone that is physically there, where it would be quite challenging, even if someone had physical access to your phone, to get that signing information off of it. Um, so it's nice to make it so that you can't like accidentally type in a password somewhere or something and someone can steal all your stuff. They actually need to get access to your device in order for that to happen. Um, and we are working on making it so that BLS is supported by these things. But we also added support to our blockchain of non-BLS signature algorithms specifically to enable that. To make it so you could use your secure enclave with Chia.
Yeah, and I know that's really powerful for, people who don't want to write down 24 words or understand what it means to keep safe a mnemonic. A lot of those people find it more streamlined to use something like their
It's still a
iOS
good
device.
idea to do that and keep that
Mhm.
in a really physically safe place, because it, for most people, like physically losing your device, like just to get it physically dying, you losing it, it getting destroyed, something like that is a much bigger threat than it get is a much more likely threat than it getting stolen.
Mhm.
And so you really want that backup of being able to recover it. Then there's all this question of if you like what happens if you lose your device and you're trying to use your backup recovery thing, and that interacts with this other question of if there's a debate between your backup recovery and your physical device of where your funds should go, who wins? Like, you need to make a decision one way or the other. So it's a question of, are you more worried about someone stealing your physical device and trying to make off with all the funds using that? Or are you more worried about someone getting access to your 24 words wherever you've kept them and trying to steal your funds that way? So that's interesting. I'm not sure exactly how we're doing it for the cloud wallet today. There's with the next gen vaults, you'll be able to specify this in great detail of exactly how you want all these things to work.
Mhm. Yep, and I know currently we have passkey or Chia signer options for the custody key
Mhm,
on the uh, Chia Cloud wallet.
mhm.
And for the recovery key, currently it's the 24-word mnemonic, but we are looking to add additional options for that as well.
Yeah, we're also going to support next gen vaults is going to be able to, at least in principle. So maybe so definitely not in the first release, but it will be able to support vault of vaults. So
Mhm.
you can have a multi-sig where one of the things in it is a multi-sig setup themselves, and they provide you with a signature. So
Mhm. Absolutely. It really is interesting how well that can scale in the future and provide additional custody options.
yeah.
Now, a slight divergence here. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. Will
Uh-huh.
CNI implement any anonymity and privacy technology similar to Monero? If not, do you see developers outside of CNI who are able to create it?
Probably not similar to Monero. What we do have plans for, thoughts for. There's a question of what is plans, but on the, there's the we need to get our it's certainly our public facing roadmap much clearer from a product
Mhm.
standpoint. I'm going to be talking about that in the future. But there's always like, here's the projects we're working on right now, right? And here's the projects we have immediate plans for. And then here's the projects we are kind of thinking about after that. And so it sort of fades into things that are never going to happen somewhere out there. But fairly visible within the things we kind of have thoughts on is confidential confidential tokens. So um, they won't be cats. They can't be cats. Um, but the plan is to support tokens which have confidentiality properties. So what that means is you can see in any transaction the you can see what tokens went into it. You can see what coins went into it, and you can see what coins came out of it, but you can't see their amounts, right? And so it's only when someone actually wants to finally cash out at the end that they make something and they show that it's of a certain amount. So that's called confidentiality. Um, and then you can Monero like mixes that kind of thing with automatically do like setting up circles that are like mixing with each other. But the basic thing is that, and then you want this to be general purpose. So the plan is to make it. I know this sounds a little crazy, that you just make drop coins. So if there's a particular, so we'll have like a Chia, we'll have like confidential Chia. That's this, not a cat. I don't know what you call it. A a sea cat, a confidential cat. But it should, it actually should maybe move away from make it be exactly called cats, because it definitely is not, specifically is not following the cat standard. But we'll make something a lot like the cat standard, and we'll make it so that there's one thing whose tail, the way it works is you have drop coins. So you take your Chia that's coming, your Chia coin that's coming in, and you um, make a drop coin that's just sitting on chain, that you have turned your Chia into this drop coin. And this is nominally, anyone can come pick this up later, but there are rules. And what you get out of it is a confidential coin in the amount of the size of the drop coin that you made. Now this confidential coin, now obviously people know what size it is, because even though its size is encrypted, right? Its size field is encrypted. People can tell because they know how much you put in and what you got out. But as this transacts with other things, that gets obfuscated along the way. So, like if you're sending individual payments for something, people can kind of see, depending exactly how good your privacy is set up, but people can kind of see on chain that you're sending payments to a particular person, but they can't see what the amounts are, right? The idea is we're hiding the amounts. And then at some point in the future, well, anyone who has these like confidential tokens can then go and pick up the drop coin that you made, because it's not your drop coin anymore. But anyone, including you, can take some amount of this confidential token using the tail of this particular confidential token, and say, okay, I'm going to take this drop coin, I'm going to cleave off this amount of it for myself, and I'm going to burn this amount of balance of the confidential token in order to get permission to do that. And I'm going to prove what the balance was as I do it. I'm going to prove exactly that I'm burning this exact amount as part of this transaction so that I can pull this off of the drop coin. So this is actually, this is a project that anyone in principle could do. Like there's sufficient programmability in the Chia programming language to do this. And like the cat standard, like the singleton standard, like the pooling protocol, in principle, anyone out there could write this, having nothing to do with us. Like all three of those things I just said, and gaming, have involved no changes whatsoever to the actual consensus algorithm at all. So these are all things that in principle anyone could write. We don't expect other people to do it. So yeah, that is a thing that we have kind of plans for, but not immediate specific plans for it. This is the thought that we'll have about having privacy features.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and it's always great to hear as to again how forward looking we are for these different things that can be done and different things that people might want or need in different use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are getting near the, I guess, middle of the hour, but top of the hour for our call. So we're going to start wrapping up here soon. If anybody has last minute questions, feel free to jump into the Zoom Q&A on the YouTube chat or inside of our Discord community feedback and events channel. We do have another question from Slowest Time Lord on YouTube,
Mhm.
and it's any thoughts on projects looking to abstract Chia Lisp to a more common language? And two of which I know of are Ru by Rigidity to write it in Rust, and the newest one I've seen is OX Basic by Steve Stepp to do a basic
Right.
syntax version.
A bunch of thoughts here. First off, we're working on improving Chia Lisp a lot. Okay, so the modern Chia Lisp is much better than classic Chia Lisp. Uh, the team working on gaming is really, really looking forward to being able to put their emphasis on the Chia development environment in the future. So uh, right now, there's a bunch of stuff that aren't pulled into main on that. In particular, module style is not pulled into main. That and so there's a few minor language enhancements beyond that I've requested that can be done. Those won't be a big deal. But the big thing after that just like basic catching up thing, and there's print as well, which I'm sure people will be
Mhm.
very happy to have print. It's really nice. Um, is dev environment thing. So like getting the syntax highlighting in VS Code and cursor working properly, and um, and getting stack traces going and debugging in general. But I personally am a weirdo and I never use real debugging. I just use the stack traces I get with things. But that's going to make a huge difference. That's going to be really, really nice to have that. Oh man. So that's coming. Sorry, I some of that would have been done by now, but I'm sorry. I pulled art off of things to work on gaming. um, but that is upcoming. We know how painful a bunch of things are. We're doing it ourselves. So, but part of the point of an intentional side effect of the gaming project is that we've been working on improving GLS as part of it as well. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of that that's done already. Some of it in queue to just get it merged in and ready for other people to use. Some, but it's definitely much improved now. Like module style and uh, it, module style and print are just really really great enhancements to the whole thing. Um, and yeah, and oh man, stack traces are going to be are going to make a huge difference in development time. But that said, people are free to make their own languages that compile to CLVM, right? We can rapidly iterate on GLisp because it's a compiled language and we're not changing what it compiles into. We're just changing the compilation start, right? Um, so people are free to make other languages. That's kind of a big project to do so. I would say from my own experience doing this, a few things. One of the big things that happens in Chia-Lisp is it's really, really normal to do quiny stuff and do things where someone just like hands you a piece of code and you validate it and you just call it. And that's something that's very, very unnatural to do in most languages. Like the whole thing is written. The whole reason it's using Lisp, well, the whole reason the underlying stuff is using Lisp, but also the high level stuff doesn't obfuscate that because that is a thing that you do all the time. It's like really, really normal to do things in that way. Um, so, uh, although actually for the purposes of gaming, I think all the quining is done for you in gaming, actually. So you could totally, you could have an alternate language that didn't quine really nicely and just write Chia games that work within the Chia gaming platform that work straightforwardly because most of the goofy quining stuff is handled for you outside of it. Um, so uh, yeah, and you cannot obfuscate the fact that you're doing coin set programming, whatever language you're writing things in. That's just something you're stuck with. I mean, you could obfuscate it by having something that's just integrating with something on the front end that's making transactions for you and stuff like that. That could be done, but it's kind of weird trying to do that because you're taking this thing that's making you do things in a way that's very safe and trying to work around it to do things in a way that's very unsafe. so, um, but yeah, I mean, I welcome all of this experimentation that people are doing, and if someone like makes an environment where it's way way easier for people to just like whip out a new game, that would be really great. Because yeah, in the context of like you're writing a new game, it could be that the actual like game part of it is like way safer, is working within this programming paradigm that it doesn't need, because the goofy things that it support are all handled outside of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you very much. Steve Stepp does have a follow-up question in YouTube about that, and I'm just going to summarize it.
Uh-huh.
The upgrades that you mentioned
Yeah.
to Chia Lisp, are those publicly available right now?
Um, yes. In particular, module style and print definitely are, but I can't tell you where.
Mhm.
Like Art or Adam would be the people to answer that question. So maybe we should check in with them and post that somewhere. But like they're yeah, they're it's out there, but it's like in a particular branch of GLS. So and I can't speak to where it is exactly.
No, absolutely. And Steve, I'll go ahead and follow up with you offline. If anybody else is curious, feel free to jump into the Discord and the support channel, and we'll be able to help you out
Yeah,
in there.
people are using versions of GLS that are way, way behind the latest development. So we have all kinds of really nice like destructuring features and stuff. But on top of that, yeah, on top of all those really nice destructuring features, um, there's also module style. So there's like .clink and .clsp files. And the difference between those is really important. Where .clink is a Chia Lisp include, right? And .clsp is a is a CLVM include. So a .clsp file actually compiles into something. A .clink file can't compile into a thing because it's not a whole program. And so we have it set up so you can import from something that's specified in a .clsp file, which is really nice. So when you have multiple step um, dependencies between different things, it's all one compile. And also a .clsp can actually export multiple things. So if you have multiple things that are interdependent, that just does it, and they automatically export the SHA trees of all their compilation targets as well. So you don't need to have anything computing that for you. So it's basically like doing stuff, in Python, where you don't need a separate build system for your thing. You just compile and it just compiles and does all the dependencies like it's supposed to. And you don't need to worry about it.
Absolutely. Sounds like some excellent improvements there for sure.
Yeah. And print makes it so you can write diagnostics, which is really great.
Ah, most certainly. And
Yeah.
that kind of leads to, I think, the last question we're going to be able to get to today is from A. Brown, and it's I've heard of formal verification reducing bugs. Where
Mhm.
in Chia would that be useful to reduce possible bugs, or is it even possible?
Yeah, so what I always say about it is formal verification is the morning after pill of debugging. So, so what you really want is to do things following a bunch of practices, design patterns, and practices, which by their nature make it so you have very, very few bugs. And then formal verification often actually the debugging process gets you very far along in formal verification, right? So there formal verification can in some deep sense can't really and truly show that something is bug free. It can show that something follows the spec. And so you can have bugs in the spec and the specification, and that's a problem. But you can have certain kinds of things you write in the specification about, like, well, this can't have memory errors, this can't, things along those lines. And uh, Sheila's programming already is front loading a lot of pain of forcing you to do things kind of the right way. Um, uh, and we have paid for not formal verification, but audits, and people have really struggled to find stuff for the most part. There's the old parable about all our problems on chain were caused by using announcements instead of messages because we didn't have messages yet. so, so that's definitely found things there. So just FYI, everybody, use messages whenever you can. The yeah, so you can do a lot of expensive and painful formal verification on Ethereum because Solidity is so horrible that there's a lot of work to do there. But um, doing the comparable process in Chia is simultaneously significantly less necessary, but also much easier to do, just because the whole environment is kind of set up for it from the beginning.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate the high level overview and then also the in-depth analysis as to where it would be useful there.
Yeah, yeah, which is not to say that we're not doing audits of stuff. Like when you have something like gaming, the attack surface is huge.
Mhm,
So we're doing like pretty good debugging right now, but we're going to do our own, like the other Bram is going to be auditing that stuff.
mhm.
Yeah, you're going to try and make it so that the output of the audit is a lot of is not just like, oh, we looked over the code carefully, but like we wrote a whole lot of tests that you can run again. So as you're doing ongoing development, you can keep running the tests, making sure it's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. And we're at time now, so thank you, Bram. Really appreciate your time and all of the insights across what we're building in Chia, what you have visions for in the future. Are there any last words you would like to leave people with?
Um, well, I'm very excited about what we have upcoming. I'm sorry that I'm showing, like concept demos here that don't have anything real under them. So I promise, I swear, these are things that really are. All we need to do is hook them into the underlying thing. We have this whole other thing there that is what these things are, that's actually getting hooked into, that we spent years building. This isn't just me cobbling together a bunch of demo crap, because if if that was our approach, we'd have started with these things rather than waiting till the very end. But I'm hoping in the very near future, we are like, for gaming, we are actually in the process of doing all the hooking together stuff on it. So in the very near future, we should have an alpha out, um, and that will, and then that's something people will actually be able to play with, and probably will actually be able to do, um, to be able to play for real Chia with the alpha and not just testnet. We might want to discourage that a bit, because I'm not keen on people starting to play serious degen games for real money on an alpha product. Like we want the alpha's out to get feedback on it, not for people to like immediately jump into it, because we want people to have a good first experience with it. So
Mhm,
there's that. But very soon, we should be able to have the alpha out, and that'll support California poker for real. And then the 1.0 will be that plus general cleanup and refinement, auditing, uh, supporting supporting the other two games other than California poker, and just us feeling pretty good about it, and people actually playing, us feeling pretty good about people playing for real Chia on that.
mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Very excited to get my hands on that alpha and start playing the games.
Mhm.
If anybody is curious to take a look at what's going on in the back end ahead of time, take a look at our GitHub and the Chia Gaming repo, and you'll see a lot of that work there. And start getting yourself prepared for that alpha. If any other questions do arise or you want to carry over any of these conversations, feel free to jump into our Discord. We have numerous channels to discuss all the different topics that were presented here. And I'm always available in the support channel as well if questions arise or issues arise across our various products. But Bram, thank you very much for your time today. Everybody who joined us, thank you for your time and your excellent questions. And I hope everybody has a excellent weekend.
Bye.
This ain't hype. This ain't luck. This is Jim Rat Crypto. This is the GRC anthem. I'm a gym rat, stacking gains in crypto. Lift heavy bars, flip heavy bags in crypto. No suits, no hype, just swinging PRs and P&L. From bench press to bull press, watch my portfolio swell. 6 a.m. rise in the zone with the squad. Metal plates clang while I battle the evil dogs. Pain is the profit, sweat is the proof. Logging the dexes, ticker GRC blowing the roof. No cap in the feed, no chill in the veins. Mirror the charts, I'm built from gains. GRC pressing heart like a preacher in flames. Pump pulse like the block, bring waves to the chain. No spoon-fed picks, I bench my own fate. I don't wait on moonshots, I dictate.
Crypto muscle, crypto hustle, one rep, one goal. Bulging quads like server farms, mining blocks for the soul. While it's stack, feel like PR day flex, no stress. Huddle hard, train harder, cash out, say less. I'm a gym rat, stacking gains in crypto. Lift heavy bars, flip heavy bags in crypto. No suits, no hype, just swinging PRs and P&L. From bench press to bull press, watch my portfolio swell. It's the GRC anthem. He been pushing Richard Hart, bro, elevate the chain. No throne too high for those who grind through pain. RH had vision, now GRC's that flame. Igniting the pulse, no shortcuts in this game. Motivation ain't fluff, it's raw and exact. Built off losses, comebacks, never distract. Level up, lad right, that's the gym rat code. Spotting kings, lifting dreams while building his own road. Push the weight, push the chain, tokens jump, no shame in game. Pulse, don't sleep, it's hard and hustle. We mine our truth through sweat and muscle. Boom. Bar for bar, coin for coin, gym rat leading, not just joining. This the anthem, GRC, we coined it. I'm a gym rat, stacking gains in crypto. Lift heavy bars, flip heavy bags in crypto. No suits, no hype, just swinging PRs and P&L. From bench press to bull press, watch my portfolio swell. Swell, this the anthem, GRC, anthem. Building legacy from the gym to the blockchain mansion. I'm a gym rat, stacking gains in crypto. Lift heavy bars, flip heavy bags in crypto. No suits, no hype, just swinging PRs and P&L. From bench press to bull press, watch my portfolio swell. This the anthem, GRC anthem. Building legacy from the gym to the blockchain mansion. I'm a gym rat, stacking gains in crypto. Lift heavy bars, flip heavy bags in crypto. No suits, no hype, just swinging PRs and P&L. From bench press to bull press, watch my portfolio swell. This the anthem, GRC anthem. Building legacy from the gym to the blockchain mansion. This ain't hype.